Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janis Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janis will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janis R. Cohen.
Hey y'all, this is Janis Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. Hey, look, I know this is going to sound silly and simple-minded, what I'm about to say, but sometimes simple wisdom is the best wisdom. My mama has simple wisdom, and it really is so powerful. But here's some simple words of wisdom for y'all starting right out of the gate. We don't know what we don't know until we know it. Basic, right? I mean, everybody knows that. But there's a reason why I'm reinforcing that simple wisdom today. I think most of us spend our lives wondering why in the holy hell we have been put through the challenges that we've been put through. Who on earth would sign up for the laundry list of human struggles that we've been given? Some people have it much harder than others, and they have to grow up much faster than others, much earlier than others. And then other people seem to coast through life with few bumps and bruises, and then they get hit with a big whammy of whammies when it comes to hardship at some point later on in their life. Why is that? Pain is a universal feeling, and it seats itself along a spectrum for all of us. What one person might consider excruciating, another person might consider normal. The only way a person can make sense of what happens in their lives in terms of pain is to live beyond the moment, sometimes far beyond the moments. Sometimes it takes decades to find the higher reasoning for the pain that we have experienced and endured, but that's life. We're given experiences, and then it is our job to find out the core truth of why we went through such hard times. It wasn't until later in my life that I finally got the message that I was to use everything that happened in my life for my growth and in the service of the greater good. If I'd known that from the get-go, y'all, very early on, I wouldn't have extracted all the wisdom from those shitty times. There's no question if somebody said, oh, by the way, you're going to go through a lot of shit, just letting you know, and you're supposed to use it. You know what? I would be running for the door. And in all honesty, I wouldn't have evolved in the exact way that I was supposed to. None of us would. But because we hit the delete button on our soul's memory when we incarnate, we don't get the chance to get knowledge before the pain. The beauty, though, of life is that we are constantly given opportunities to learn along the way. Some of us are stubborn and in denial and require multiple experiences to hammer in a lesson. I had that and then some. Let me get back to the beautiful part. Just like you would look in the rearview mirror of your car to see what's behind you, you can do that in your life. This is where the beauty is. It is in the reflection in the rearview mirror. I had no idea how me being severely bullied in the 7th grade would serve me later on in life. No idea. As a kid, you're just in the present moment. And when shitty things like that happen, you're just kind of stuck there at that age. Like, the only thing you could think about is, oh my God, I want to vomit and I have to go to school every day. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to be mocked and humiliated. They're going to throw shit at me. People are going to walk away when I'm around. They're going to talk about me, whisper. They're going to laugh at me. And on and on and on. I knew that I had to face that every freaking day. I was a mess. But that's the only place that I could be in that moment. I did not have any insight or forethought about how purposeful all of that shit would be. I'm sorry, I shouldn't call it shit. It was shit. It felt like shit. But it really isn't shit. It was good stuff. Nothing else matters, right? Except the pain that you're in when you're that age. Most kids that age don't have the level of insight to realize that this pain has a purpose, and it'll be an invaluable purpose in the later moments of your life. I had no idea that I would be able to use that experience to help the kids that I worked with in therapy over the years. Being on the inside of that brutality, I was able to inherently know what they felt and thought, and therefore I was able to circumvent the lengthy exploration of why and instead help them travel directly to the what and what next. I've learned to set my response pattern to autopilot when it comes to painful events in my life. Uh, while I used to ask questions like, why me? What did I do to deserve this? When bad things happen, and I would just sit in the shit and the muck of it, feeling helpless. I now ask more helpful questions like, okay, this has happened. What can I learn from this? And that simple shift changed the quality of my life for sure. And we don't always extract um, the the core purpose of an experience soon after. Sometimes we do. Sometimes it takes a while. So when I encounter difficulty, I don't just stand there anymore and welcome the punches and then nurse my wounds. Definitely not. Sometimes I kind of fall into a sad place, but I don't want to be there too long. It's too uncomfortable. I don't like it. I want to know how I can use it, what's going on, and I want to get rid of it. I immediately tell myself, Janis, I know there is something really big and valuable about this amount of pain and repeated disappointment. If that's what I'm going through, I'll just take a little bit of time. It'll just take a little bit of time to reveal itself. So let's just wait this out. And in the meantime, let's go do something so that we can feel nurtured. You hear all of these horrific stories about parents losing children to violence, to death. To me, and I'm not talking about just the times we're living in, certainly with the horrible treatment of these people these days, whether it's people who are outside of our borders or the Black men and women who have been murdered and mistreated by police. Awful, awful, awful. Or the kids that are shot in crossfires, itty bitty kids. Or a parent losing their child to kidnapping or rape or whatever it is. To me, this is one of the worst things a person can experience, losing a child at any point in a child's life. And then you find those parents in the midst of and soon after their incredible loss, they find meaning and purpose to serve others. Grief and loss are very powerful forces to use in creating change and making a difference in the world at large. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Our biggest challenge is our biggest asset. There is no other purpose in pain and suffering than for us to learn something about ourselves and use it to help others. With pain comes a realization that you're stronger than you've ever considered. With pain comes a realization that you needed to change how you're living your life because you're just coasting. Or maybe you're indulging in a pity party for far too long. With pain comes a realization that you're not alone. And while everybody's circumstances of grief and loss are different, the end result feeling is the same. We hurt. We cry. And we just want to get out of pain. To stop feeling pain, you have to find out pain's purpose. And to make it your pain purposeful, you have to find a way to use your pain to help others. It wouldn't take you but a millisecond to write down the list of the most painful and challenging times in your life. After all, you've lived your life and nobody else knows your life better than you. So take a moment and think of the facts of the things that you have been through. I don't need you to lean into the feeling of trauma if that's what you've experienced, just the idea of what has happened, because I'm going to give you a step process in a little bit. Maybe you lost everything and had to start over. And the knowledge you gained about yourself was that you had an intense amount of drive and ambition after the experience or experiences that you never would have known that you had those things not happened. Maybe because of the things that happened to you, you developed a way to keep people safe, a product that saved people time, saved their life, a business or a nonprofit organization that helped millions of people around the world, simply because and wholeheartedly because of what you've been through, because of your pain. Whatever has happened in your life, your parents were shitty, you grew up really poor, you hit rock bottom because of addiction, you were violated as a child, or any other series of events that happened to you to push you onto grief's doorstep, there is a reason, always a reason. Now, I am not saying at all that I can explain everything away. I'm not saying it's rationalized. I'm saying there is purpose. I know for sure that there's always some wisdom to extract from what you've been through. Always, always, always. So tell me, what has your biggest challenge been? And what have you learned about yourself from it? The biggest one. And I ask you to think about, okay, if you think about the 5 challenging moments of your life, and you put them all together, and they were seated underneath an umbrella, a theme, what would that be? How have you benefited from those experiences? Better yet, how are you using what you've learned to help others who haven't yet learned to value their hardships? I could tell you that this last question, the last question of how are you helping others, is the single most important piece to living your best life, to help others who need your help because you have been there and done that and you're on the other side of it, better off. So here is a simple 5-step process to help you out of pain and into purpose. First, take a piece of paper and list, if you think of whatever event comes up in your awareness, list the facts of the event. I don't want you to write, I felt this, it made me feel this. I want you to write the facts. After I list these 5 steps, I'm going to give you an example, so don't worry that if you don't understand what I'm talking about. First step, take a piece of paper, write the list of the facts of events, where you were, how old you were, who was there, what happened, blah, blah, blah. Facts. Next, write down what you felt in that moment in time. How did you feel? Next, write down the label that you gave yourself because of the experience and the feelings you had. Okay? We will often jump to a label, an assumption, a conclusion based on the feelings that we have. Step 4, identify the lessons you learned about yourself as a result of having that experience. And if you tell me I don't know, well, you better work to figure it out, because either you really have poor insight, which I really don't think you do, or you haven't taken the time to respect the experience enough, or respect yourself enough to learn from it. Last, identify how you have already, or how you will use the wisdom gained from your life experiences to help others. Here's an example. I'm going to use the example of when I was bullied in the 7th grade. Okay, so the facts. I was bullied in 7th grade. I was taunted, teased, rejected, publicly humiliated by every one of the students in my class for 6 months. Everybody, boys and girls, and the people who didn't even speak English, the exchange students. Somehow they knew, so they followed suit. I had no friends, and no one talked to me for 6 months. That's half a year, y'all. Sucked. So here's what I felt. I felt depressed, anxious, angry, and I felt horrible about my life. Most of all, I felt helpless. What label did I give myself? I felt like I was a loser. What I learned was that I shouldn't repeat what other people tell me in confidence, because this is all around gossiping. Girls always do that, but I got nailed. I learned that the way other people treated me was a result of their internal struggles, not mine, especially those girls who bullied me like they were Queen Bee and blah, 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 and Little Bee. But to treat somebody else like that, they had to have had their own experiences. And those kids that followed the leaders had way more challenges than I did. The fact that they went along with that shit, that says a lot about them. At least I faced each day. And while I really wanted to run away, I wanted to never go to school again. I didn't. And thank God my parents pushed me to go to school. And thank God I had a principal back then who, in all honesty, and this is in my book called The Intuitive Therapist, it's the beginning of it, that man saved my life. He let me come and sit with him every day. And he would talk to me. Lunch and recess were the worst times because that's when everybody would ignore me. They'd all move. And he let me sit in his office with him every day until things changed. But I did want to go hide under a rock and vanish. I just wanted it to be over, and I couldn't stop it. I used that experience to help train teachers, parents, and work directly with the kids who were both the bullies and the bullied. I helped kids become stronger, stand up for themselves, develop empathy, and develop thicker skin to prepare them for future challenges like that, because those things are all around us. So take some time to go through the experiences in your life that you would just like to file away, even the worst ones, because you have learned something from them. You have learned something from how other people treated you and what you went through. You may not want to look at it, but the sooner that you do, the sooner you extract the lessons, you can release the pain. Our experiences are never experienced in vain, I promise you that. How are you going to use what you've learned to help somebody else? How are you going to use your life to make this world a better place, or at least improve one person's life? If you don't choose to help somebody else who's struggling with something you have, and that you've come out on the other side of it a better person, then that, my friend, is a waste of time spent on earth. I wish you a blessed day, a wonderful week. I pray that you find the lessons in your pain, and I hope that you can transmute them into kindness, compassion, and love for others, and help others have better lives too.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.